hustle still wins. You still have to outwork the field. That old school stuff still plays. All the hustle still wins. Humility is the dividing line between good and great. Hi, I'm Nick Warner. As a dad, a lucky husband, and as a business coach, I value people and relationships above all else. But next is winning, sustainability, and healthy culture. I've been a business owner for 25 years and served for decades as a special advisor to business and government leaders at all levels. Let's just say I've seen some stuff. My passion and my expertise are helping motivated professionals and businesses find the highest level confluence of what they want in life and business. This is what it feels like to be together at the top. Thank you to our sponsors, Scholl's Brick and Rogaski, Three Bridges Consulting, Kathy Olson at Ships and Trips, and Connect Strategies. Welcome to Together at the Top Nick Notes version, episode 44. Unlike other versions, we're not going to interview somebody else. We're going to interview me, and by we, I mean myself and Riley Byrne, our amazing producer who's been with us, Riley, I think almost 4 years now. So what I did is I went back through my files and I went back through my folders, and I have been keeping notes for some time about trends that I see, like common trends that I see, common sayings that I use, other people use, I love from books. And I put together some prompts, some in the form of questions, some in the forms of just like literally prompts or sayings. Riley's going to play some of them back to me, and we're going to kick them around. So I'm going to give you a little bit more of my intellectual property today. Normally I'm interviewing others to mine theirs, if you will. We'll do it together with Riley, who's also a business owner, so that's great. But here we go, Nick Notes, episode 44. So like I said, it's going to be a little different format, and I'm going to kick it over to Riley. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We've had a little back and forth in terms of like how this is going to work, because I think Riley expected I was going to aggregate all the questions and like things I wanted him to ask me. But really what I did is I just went back through through my files and folders and gave it to him. So yeah, we'll see how he gives it back to me. Hi, Riley.
How's it going?
Good. Great to have you back.
I guess, yeah. Returning time. Long time, second time. All right, Nick, I think we got to start where, everybody's kind of wondering this is why did you start Together at the Top?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I know it sounds cheesy, Riley and listeners, but it's really true. It's an opportunity for me to learn from leaders and emerging leaders in a long form content and allow others to do the same thing if they're interested. Also, as a coach, I often end up in rooms or on a screen, like a video with people who haven't met me yet. So the podcast is, frankly, it's my intellectual collateral for others to get a sense of me, so I don't come in cold into a big room or a high leverage conversation and they have no idea who I am. Like I'm just some guy that came in through a fancy suit. So it gives them an opportunity to hear from me in substance, and in addition to my ability to learn from people over an hour. Yesterday, and I was actually excited to tell you this, I'm going to tell you on the air. Yesterday, someone told me their team listened to a bunch of the episodes and decided they wanted me and only me. And they said it was because of getting to know me in long form over the podcast. And frankly, I have a huge and expanding network, so I poke at it to learn from them, and folks can hear it on air, learn along, and then get a sense of who I am coming in if I'm coaching and consulting.
One of the things that you frequently say is you love learning from emerging leaders. When did that happen for you? Because I don't think that's the case for a lot of people who, once they get up to the top, like they don't want to be together at the top. They want to be alone at the top. That's why it's the top. It's the hardest to get there.
Yeah, you asking about emerging leaders in particular? Because I'd love to answer that. Like leaders or emerging leaders?
Emerging leaders. Yeah. Like when was it that you decided, there's still more to learn from people who are still coming up?
Yeah, it's so good. I didn't know that I was going to get into this emerging leader space. And one of my first handful of clients, I was executive coaching, and we were having lunch, and he said, I want to bring you in to do some team building. And I was like, I don't think I do team building. I think I do executive coaching. And then I did come into his team. I said, why don't you do it? Like, you'd be great. Why don't you lead this? And he goes, because if I lead it, it's a staff meeting and I want you to lead it and I want to participate in it. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And when I got back to my car, I was like, that was so freaking fun. I really enjoyed that. And as this particular relationship went on, the principal that I was working with in executive coaching said, I'd really love to avail you of some of my emerging leaders. They're excellent at their jobs, but they're just starting to bring in business, run meetings, have staff to manage. And I was like, man, that sounds great. So that was my first entree into I could provide big value to people that are coming from the field, if you will. Lawyers, cops, technology, and all. It could be any married construction, and all of a sudden they're in a business office. But it also pointed out to me, and I think I just was attracted to it because I just was frankly attracted to it, is I'm 55. I was 51 when I started coaching as my full-time vocation. And I want to be really aware of space that can get in between language, understanding younger people's pressures, the technology, the language they use. So not only was I attracted to it because I was learning from them, but it's keeping me very fresh and relevant in terms of being able to move around and empathize and understand different people's, like I said, terminology, technology, and otherwise. And then there's just big turn to be had there, honestly, if they show up humble in particular. Because what I don't want is the boss saying, hey, Riley, you need to go meet with Nick. Like, you got a lot of work to do. Like, that's not how we're coming in. And I hope this doesn't come across weird, but I'm expensive. And you should put your best people on your best opportunity. And I work in some remedial situations with some remedial people, but mostly I get, man, this is amazing. I can't believe my company's paying for this. I'm like, I know, let's go. Like, tell me, and so then, like, if you were one of the questions I gave you was, or that comes up a lot of times, what are the most common issues you see as an executive business coach? And it leads me right to busy and managing up. Like, busy is the number one thing I see with emerging leaders is there's still vestiges of their previous job. And now they have this new job. And a lot of times they're doing both. So we're working on, frankly, new muscle memory and shedding old muscle memory. I think you have 7 employees, like in your really successful Podigy company. And so when you first start, my guess is you're like Pac-Man. You gobble up all the opportunity. You say yes, right? Like, you say yes to no to very few things. But as your business starts to mature, and similarly as your career starts to ascend, it can really get you in trouble saying yes to everything because you just get buried. And then you compound that. I'd love to get your comment on that. You compound that with the fact that as an emerging leader, you're probably a supersized individual contributor with your shadow directly over somebody that is trying to enhance their career and help the company or the organization. So getting your shadow out of the way, making sure you're not doing your old job and your new job, and then learning to say no. And it may be delegation. It may not be just no, period. Learning to say no to the right things so you can say yes to the right things. Be it a big client, be it a time-consuming meeting. It's not the same thing.
You're hitting on a lot of things that over the last couple of years have come up again and again and again for me. Like, doing your old job while sort of expanding out the business, that is probably the number one thing. And it's the number one thing that I see when I'm in groups of other podcast editors is that's a very specific skill. If you're setting up shop to do that, you can do that for, 6 clients or something like that. And at that point, you're full and you have to start delegating. But if you have no experience in delegation, you never, like, it really, really takes a whole new skill and a whole new wanting to learn that skill that I don't think a lot of people have necessarily when they start off, is learning how to delegate and learning how to, even right down to like making SOPs so that someone else knows exactly what's going on in your head when you're doing these sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's where I see a lot of people sort of flounder, is that on that first level of business is just being able to say, you know what, I can teach you to do this at the same level, or, 80% of the way that I can do this, and then we can get you the rest of the way there eventually. Yeah, that's where I see a lot of people kind of get to that point, and then they sink. They rise to their ability, and then they sink to their systems. They can get super far, but then once they need to, commoditize that, they sink down to the systems. A lot of them don't have that experience making those systems for other people to be successful with them.
Yeah. Yeah, the SOP, standard operating procedure, starting to build systems, like build a business instead of just a practice that's built around you. So busy is a big thing we account for. And the other thing is, just since it came up, is managing up. Leader with leaders and emerging leaders. It's a thin democracy. I mean, not for you as a small business owner, but potentially for somebody that works for you where your title is like, I don't really want to bug Riley about this. But mostly what I'm talking about is, I'm going to say bigger organizations where, when I say thin democracy, I mean, if you don't get the right answer, there's nobody else. There's like maybe one person between you and the CEO, you and the head of the agency, you and the owner, whatever it is. You better get it right. And so I can't get my boss to pay attention. He's too busy. She doesn't exactly agree with me. I can't get it on her calendar. It's a number of things. So like managing up comes up a lot. Like another example is I brought it to the executive team and nobody said a word. It was like crickets. So we spend a lot of time on managing up, because it's one thing when you're an individual contributor or a mid-level contributor, and not to diminish that because it's important, but there's a lot of people, places, committees, other places you can go for an answer if you get it wrong, or like other places to pick up other people that care about your issue. But not once you get into that executive, it can get pretty quiet and you better get it right. So we spend a lot of time on managing up and busy. Those are probably the 2 most common things I see.
When you talk to folks about managing up, how much of that is helping them adapt to the language of the next class up, the managerial class, the C-suite level? Because that's something that I could see a lot of folks, if they're starting off in a position and someone sees a spark from them, they don't know how to talk to that next stage up for them. Is that something that you see a lot of, like adapting the knowledge that you have into the systems and the way that people are expecting at those other levels?
Yeah, it's a really good question, especially for somebody who works in small business, because that's more of a bigger business or bigger agency question. So one of the things I see a lot, Riley, is we're used to asking for permission at certain levels. And it's not to say you don't ask for permission when you're a senior vice president or you're making this up, like a captain of a sheriff's office or, if in the public sector. But it is to say that serve your bosses. They're really busy too. And so every boss is different and every leadership group is different. But what I see is oftentimes let's say you got promoted from VP to SVP and they really have a high level of confidence in you. And that's why you're in that next level executive team. I don't like that same briefing. Like, so what do you think, boss? What should I do? That's not going to get you from here to there with most bosses. Every once in a while, yes. But so we work on when you're getting green lights and you're getting yellow lights, that means go. So more times than not, we use phraseology to your point around. I'll suggest, what if you were to say, hey, what do you think about that? Is okay if I do it? What if you were to turn that around to say, hearing no objections, this is my plan. This is what I plan to do unless you have an issue. And get it to a sharper point for that busy executive, especially when they're showing you trust and showing you green lights. Or to me, yellow light means go. In the absence of a stop sign, it means go, especially with busy people. I'm not saying get over your skis or get out front of your bosses, but what I hear a fair amount is like, that was your previous job, asking. Your job now is to tell, and if they have a problem, you'll give them enough time to edit it and for you to talk through it. But in the absence of concerns, boss, here's what I plan to do, period. So that's an example of language. Another example would be, this isn't exactly language, and I think we're going to get to some of this later, maybe in flying embers, but when you're telling somebody no, but you may not want to put out the fire or say no forever, phraseology like, don't just tell them no, like watch the position of their chin. It might be no, just not now. Not no, just not now. So think about what you're trying to tell this person, because they're bringing you a whole lot of great ideas. And even if you're not going to work on that, I would rather respectfully submit a rally. I would rather rein in a bull than kick a donkey. So like, watch that. If you have a really motivated staff or a really motivated partner who's bringing you really great ideas, even if this one doesn't hit the bullseye, watch the larger, when you're sending somebody out. So yeah, I'll work on how do you lose? How do you get past no? Getting sharper in your executive recommendations. And the one I love is hearing no objections. Riley, here's what I plan to do. Because your hit rate, if you're in that warm space where they trust you, is going to be 95%. Go. That's what they put you in this position for. And it's humble people who haven't hit their stride yet. And it's never one thing. Like, I'm not saying like every single person I say, go, go, go. But I see a lot of that because I work with, frankly, really smart people who are well positioned. And their bosses, a lot of times, make me available to them to like find their highest level gear. That's mostly what it is. And so that executive language does come up quite a bit in managing up and saying no, in delegation, and in getting past the finish line quickly and efficiently for your superiors at times.
I think that's one of the things that I see a lot when we're starting to work with clients is when we're giving them the first draft of a podcast episode, artwork, motion graphics or something like that, and we're giving them 5 different versions of it. I want to take that to 200% of their expectations. So even if we miss the mark, they feel safe knowing that we can get to that point. Wherever it is that they want to go, we can get there. They just need to reel us in to that point rather than saying like, oh, we delivered to 80% of your expectations. Now they're not sure if we can get there. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I love is, yeah, it's a no, but it's a no in the, I'm glad that you brought me this, rather than a no, it's going to be a struggle to get to where we need to go. Yeah,
we'll talk in some of the other prompts, I think, managing up when you got to give your boss really bad news. So we'll save that for as we go, but I want to talk about that too, because sitting on bad news, pay now, pay later, kaboom.
So the next note here is overvalue the informed insider. You got to let us in on this.
That's awesome. It was one of the ones Riley sent me a note saying, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I go, just give me the prompt and I'll tell you why I brought it up. So I love, those of you who work with me or who I coach know, I love an author and a podcast named Adam Grant. And Adam Grant in the book Hidden Potential talks about, especially if you're ascending professional, overvalue the informed insider, the man or the woman who says, hey, Riley, like, I see what you're doing. I really like this. Because most of us have some form of imposter syndrome. Switching companies, switching careers, leveling up. overvalue the informed insider who's telling you got this. There's going to be haters and there's going to be people who don't know as well, but both for your confidence and in substance, overvalue that informed insider. That said, he points out in the book, and I have experienced really great success with this. As you move up, I'm going to guess this is true for you and it's true for most of the people I work with, you get 10 to 1 attaboys or attagirls. You're doing a great job. So an example for me was, I guess it doesn't matter when it was, but a couple of years ago, I did a pretty big presentation for a large executive team. It was 4 hours. It was high performing leadership team training in a workshop format. It went well. And afterward, the lunch was warm, meaning like it was a warm environment for me. At lunch, my team lead or my leader of the initiative walked me to the car, said a lot of great things. It went well by all accounts. And when I got home, my wife, Katie, said, "How'd it go?" And I was like, "It went good." Like something was pulling at me, man. Like I just could not figure out what it was. And normally I'd know what it was, but I couldn't figure it out. So back to informed insider, I called my inside guy who had brought me in and said, "How did it go yesterday? I want to double up." He goes, "It went great. It went awesome." "Why?" I said, "Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Do you think it was a little long?" He goes, It was a little long." I'm like, "Okay, I'm in." That's what I was looking for, because I'm getting 10 to 1 attaboys and I'm sitting on input. I need to go get it. My second follow-up question, and the theme might be use of probative questions to get what you need, was, what about the organization? Do you think I covered too much? He goes, "It's funny you bring that up, because one of the guys walked in afterward and said, 'Hey, is Nick going to cover all that material with us in our one-on-one breakouts with him? Or are we supposed to like capture all that?' And I was like, I cannot tell you how helpful that is, because that's what I think I was sensing." And the third one was, "Do you think I talk too much?" He said, I think this is what he said. If he's listening, he's going to laugh at me and probably get a hold of me. But I think he said, "No, you didn't talk too much, but I do think you left some meat on the bone in terms of intellectual property in that room. We could have got more out of that team." And I'm never going to forget that. I would not have got that without the informed insider. I like the confidence, but I really like going back as a high-level successful person and finding that person that could give me that input. So that's why it's on the list.
Now, does that tie into the 360-degree review that is so scary and so impressive?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my note says a 360-degree review, so scary, so impressive. Like I was thinking about people I work with. I was just like looking through my files, and I had been taking notes for this Nick Notes episode. So I keep saying this, I work with some really impressive people. Like sometimes I'm outside my office even pacing around nervous, going like the minute that screen pops up, you better say smart stuff because they know what they're doing. So one of the executives I work with in the public sector space, his first approach with me was, before we get started, I want to do a full 360 review of the more than 100 people that work for me. I wanted every nook and cranny. I want to ask them every question. And I was like, oh my God, that's the freaking scariest thing I've ever heard as an executive. I'm so impressed by it. I mean, you want to talk about humility. And this person's top of the agency, but like arguably mid-stage career, especially by age, like top of the field, really young. I mean, I could not be more impressed by that, but I've also been the boss. And you think about like asking every single employee with a whole bunch of probative questions about me to start an initiative, super scary, but like very much superseded by so impressive. I mean, I want the good stuff. Yeah, it doesn't. It's funny because when I sent these over to you, I don't think I meant to do that sequentially or like in a storytelling format. So the fact that you put overvalue the informed insider with 360-degree review of the executive to ask everybody, how am I doing? What am I great at? What do I suck at? We're going to have a great success in that agency because the leader's so humble, top of game, and wanting more from informed insiders. Honestly, I hope that when I or if I run another company, that I would proactively go get that. It does make me shudder a little bit, but I think it is brilliant. Like, how would you feel if, well, you'd be the one doing it in all likelihood as the owner. There's coaches, there are high-level business coaches who will not start an initiative without 10. They want at least 10 people from the executive's team. They want executive assistant, wife, an outside vendor, because they want to come in and get like a really solid view. How would you feel about that?
Just thinking about some of those people now, it'd be like, I'm starting to do my own 360-degree review. I can already see sort of like the elements that are going to come up to say that needs to be improved. And for me, it's like, yes, let's get that going. But sometimes I think where the outsider is so effective is, I know these things need to be addressed, but I put it on the back burner because there's something that seems more front of mind. But that is the static. It's the noise. It's the thing that's not letting me get to the signal, which I think maybe an outsider could come in and say, the reason why you think this noise is important is because you can't find that signal of this is the real issue of it. So I think that is where that could be really, really effective for someone like me who, again, it is like, you're wearing 9 different hats every single day, and you're balancing it all as a smaller business owner.
Yeah, and I want to be evolving too, because I think a 360 review of me, I'm 55, at 45 is different than at 55. I have different tools, way different tools. I've made a lot of mistakes that like really affect my posturing going forward. But things that would have come up for me midstream and I think executives should hunt for are, I would say, digestibility. Are you using your title? Like are you using titular power to like tell? Because to me, that's weeble wobble. Like you'll knock them down, but they'll come right back to center. They don't really understand. Are you explaining your why to really smart people that work for you? Even especially when they're not getting what they want, are you explaining your why? I think I would have done poorly, although I'm not sure I would have known it till the report told me, on hearing bad news. Not just to let, but like legitimately letting the person finish. One of the most impactful things I heard from somebody I was working with, and it was somebody that worked for me, said with not a lot of grace, but a little bit of pissed off at me, which was warranted, is like, if you, and this is in front of my team, Nick, if you let me finish, I will answer 90% of your questions. You're right. Not my proudest moment. Not my proudest moment. Another one was me bushy-tailed and proudly saying, hey, how am I doing on micromanaging? I'm doing a lot better, right? And the person says, well, it depends, man. Does 200 questions a week about the client count as micromanaging? I mean, I remember this because I was freaking mortified and it changed my behavior, but I would have got that from a 360 review. I'm pretty good about going to the source and saying like, how am I doing? I'm pretty good at that, but I guarantee you I missed up. I didn't know that. I said, I'm not telling you what to do anymore, am I? No, you're just asking me questions every 10 seconds. So there's a lot to be had there and I hope we'll get into this too, but like humility is a game changer. And so, but 360 review to start is so scary, but so impressive to me.
Now, is that 360 degree review, are you hoping in that you help find people's unique values? Like, especially if they're sort of in a career transition phase?
No, I don't know if those two things go together necessarily, although they could. They could. I mean, 360 reviews reveal all kinds of things. I've had 360 reviews reveal twice. I've seen this, and it is so freaking cool. Where like the leader is revered at a next level that you didn't understand. That every level you get to in the agency, they go, I love this place. We have the best leader. I feel like I have access to Riley. He listens to me. I don't always get what I want. And I've seen that, I mean, at least twice. I haven't done that many 360 reviews. I hope I do more because they're so revealing and it shows us what we need to work on. But in career transition, let's just go, that's a really savvy question. In career transition, yeah, it comes up a lot because it's one thing if you get pulled out of a company and they put you, like they're offering you a job in another slot. But what I see a lot of times in my practice, and I'm doing more and more work on this, and it's so freaking interesting, especially the levels that I'm blessed to be able to do it at, is somebody comes off a really high profile, high leverage career on their own terms, and they want to consult or they want to repackage their skill set like I did. And my job is to put fresh eyes and ears to their situation. And I really poke at, tell me about your unique value proposition. Like I have a lot of contacts. Like everybody has a lot of contacts. Really good at technology. Everybody's really good at technology. Like tell me more about that. So there are oftentimes nooks and crannies that, including they translate over different industries, leadership skills, sales, conflict management. You can apply a lot of these things. One thing I've learned that I think I knew, but I know like in crystal clarity now, is a lot of the issues in these boardrooms and executive teams are the same industry to industry. They're about communication. They're about trust. So when you can find a unique value for yourself on that team, that's what I'm poking for. That's what I'm poking at. Yeah, I wouldn't say the 360 review is necessarily tied to unique value, but I'm hunting for your unique value all the time as a leader. I interviewed the CEO of Napa County, like wine country, California. Even you from Ottawa has probably heard of that, Ottawa, Canada. And he said, I am not at all shy about reaching down into levels of my organization to bring people up because I'll see unique value other people don't see and I'll bring them up 2 rungs. That really got my attention. If you don't have a unique value proposition, it's hard to ascend to a certain level. You got to provide value uniquely in ways that pairs well with your team.
That's why I've always excelled at Microsoft Word. I think that's really helped me stand out.
Don't you be messing around the show. This is serious business. But I mean, the question is, do you layer or do you pair? And we can get off it for sure. But I mean, what I might close is if you layer, that's fine. You'll stay employed. But if you can find a way to get off that layer and like pair next to somebody in a unique lane where it's really needed, either a consultant, in corporate, like on a team, on any team, that's a really great way to stay employed. And not everybody will find that, but that's what I'm hunting for, especially in career transition work or even hey, I really want to move up the chain. Like, all right, tell me about you. Like, really tell me about you. What do you bring? Let's really get into this. Let's distill down what your value proposition is, and let's go get it to market.
And when you're saying that to people, what do you love and what do you hate to hear?
Well, the reason I put what do you love and what do you hate on this list, because it's one of the questions that I ask when people are onboarding with me coaching, and especially again in career transition work is, I mean, let's stay away from the stuff you hate and let's go towards the stuff you love. And not everybody has stuff they love, but most people have things that they really like. And I mean, it's not exactly new science to say you'll do better you'll do better in things you like and you'll sell more if you believe in the product. But especially as I'm picking people up in ascension mode and even like top of career mode, you have a little more leeway to tell me like, what do you love and what do you hate? And if you hate it, you probably suck at it also. You may not. Like I didn't hate big budget negotiations, but holy smokes, Riley, so freaking stressful and so protracted. And I was really good at it, but it just like wore my soul out at times. It's so combative, especially in the capital. So I asked people like in the career transition work, if you're at a certain place money wise or career wise and you hate it, we're not doing it. So I'm asking you to put together a list. This is not a Pollyanna world. And some of this again is career transition or moving up, or I'm going to go start traveling. You just said you hate travel. You just said you don't want to miss any of your kid stuff or whatever it is. And you hate it. So why are you going into this next job right into that thing? So I'll listen for incongruities, but I like to work no matter who you are to the highest level confluence of what you love and less of what you hate. That's why it's on there. It's a common theme.
Demonstrate good leadership behavior. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the prompt. So you cannot get your people to do what you want them to do unless you're modeling good leadership behavior. If you don't believe me, try it. Being late. Like, to me, late is a broken window theory in criminal justice. Like, if we're letting the broken window go, we're going to find other things. As a high performing leadership coach, and even just as an individual partner, if you start with late, I'll find you your way to all kinds of problems. Dressing sharp. On time is one thing, and you're great at this. I've been working with you for 4 years, and I hope I'm great at this too. I don't just show up on time. I show up ready, and I show up a few minutes early, and we've studied, and we have a plan. So showing up like Kramer from Seinfeld, where it's like, I'm on time, like that's not on time, and that's not demonstrating good leadership behavior at all. Conflict resolution is a great one. Like, here's a really good one is we want to explain the why. We really want to be collaborative. We want to get the intellectual property from these really smart people around us, and then stuff gets stressful. And what do? And I promise you, like, if you're watching on video, I have my hand up right now. We jump in and we grab the controls out of people's hands, and we just absolutely set ourselves back. Our word is, they mock us at the dinner table. Like he says, I mean, here's one of the things I've heard is, I really want you in first chair. I really want you on point with this client. And then the minute we get an email, I reply all. And so my teammate says, boss man, like, I'm happy to be, but you keep saying you're going to work up here and get on other things. And then you reply all right away. It's terrible leadership behavior. I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. I'm being a supersized individual contributor. Conflict management's another one where you're using your title and solving it by title. And it's like, that is so not lasting. And there's a time and a place where you will get overruled. It does happen some small percentage of the time, or even a large percentage, but I'm going to explain it all the way through. Do it because I freaking said so. Not good. That does not demonstrate good leadership behavior at all. So you see it and I see it and other people see it also at times where the higher somebody goes, the more flexibility they have. So like, where's the boss? Somewhere in his RV. Like, do we know when he'll be here? We have no idea. I'm like, I do not like that leadership behavior at all. This is a really serious job. You can be here, but people be here or not be here, but people not knowing where you are, where you're half in, half out because you have the benefits of ownership or leadership. Your fidelity from your team is very, very low at that point. So especially for me as a business coach, I felt this way as a leader. And in particular, Riley, I was the leader of the California State Sheriff's Association. I was effectively chief of staff for 25 years. I never forgot, I'm a representative for top law enforcement in California. Motorola, Verizon, like these are fine companies and these are really hardworking people that are trying hard and I'm their representative and I want to demonstrate good leadership behavior. How much you drink. I'm not saying I've never made a mistake here because I have for sure. And that's what informs my knowing I made a mistake, but sloppy in a bar is fun and fine with your yucking it up. And then the meeting the next morning, it colors it up. People aren't looking at you the same way. Like as you are moving up in the world and you're a leader and people are looking to you demonstrate good leadership behavior. As a coach, I stand in front of people. It's really affected me. I'm not going to lie. Like it's really affected me. It's pushed me up to higher levels. I'm not going to stand in front of these people and be fake. I don't want to do it. And so I implore other leaders and I watch them, I coach them, I criticize them. Be a real leader. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like demonstrate good leadership behavior. Be there early. Help. Have read your agenda. Just because you're the boss doesn't mean you don't read the agenda coming in. I mean, what kind of leadership is that? We're all here at a meeting and you haven't even looked at it because you're the boss. So yeah, demonstrate good leadership behavior. Sign Nick Warner.
I think it's so funny how often like those little common sense things that it just makes sense to, be there 5 minutes early. Or I remember on our second meeting, you said that you're really into punctuality and like just make note. I made note. We started this 2 minutes late is because Zoom had installed an update and it had set all my settings all wonky, but that made me feel so bad. And then my mental note then was just like start up Zoom, 10, 15 minutes before the call so that any of those updates going forward, it's not impacting client stuff. It's fine to make that excuse maybe once, but if that becomes a thing over and over and over again, it's a you problem, not a Zoom problem at that point.
Yeah, and last one before we move off, because we have so much fun stuff to cover, is response times. Sorry, I was busy. I was in New York.
Yeah.
Like, no good. Like, the one thing we can control, and granted, this is me. Like, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm one data point. I don't know everything. There's lots of other ways to think about things, and I'm sure there's plenty of executives who will tell me, like, no, that's actually too individual contributor-ish. We want to be responsive. There's a lot of things we cannot control in this world. A lot of things. I can control being responsive, and I've had more than a handful of people tell me, you guys are unbelievable. You're the best ops I've ever worked with, or I love working with you. You're so responsive. I'm like, that's because we're getting our ass kicked right now. The one thing I have control over is getting back to you and caring a lot, demonstrating that, because this issue is not going our way.
So here's one I have no idea how to. I refuse to talk in the mirror. Okay. Let's dive into that.
Okay, it's got quotes in it for a reason, because I have one particular client who says this to me, and I forget he says it till he says it again, and then I write it down because it's so good. He says he's super high level, super successful. I could make the argument he doesn't need me, and maybe I have, and this is what he says to me. He says, I refuse to talk in the mirror. I want to talk to you in a confidential session. I don't want to talk into the mirror. I'm like, that's so good. It's so good. It's so simple, and it's so good. I mean, is it a reason for business coaching? It is, but also it's about like once you get to a certain level, it can get insular. A lot of people tell you what you want to hear. You're not smart to emote through your staff and destabilize them and their families, or to even spin scenarios. Like, let me spin some strategic scenarios. You can here and there, but I am so impressed by this one particular client of mine I've had for 4+ years. He says, I refuse to talk in the mirror, Nick. That's why I'm here. That's why I brought it up.
I think it's, sometimes you need to hear it from an outside source. Sometimes I need to hear it from my wife before it gets through my thick skull, something that I've been going around in my head for, a week or something like that. And she's just saying, you've been thinking about this for too long. You need to execute on X, Y, or Z and just get out of the way. And sometimes me especially, I need to hear that because there's not a lot of people that I feel like I can talk to when it's, you're a business owner. There's not a lot of other business owners in this particular niche that are all getting together talking about these sorts of things. So it's good to have, because if you do talk in the mirror too long, you're not making any, you're not taking any action.
Yeah. Two quick things on that. One is I noticed when my wife, when she yells it at me, her success rate's way higher. I'm like, oh, now that it's the 13th time you've told me this and you're yelling it at me, turns out I get it now. But I mean, I think refusing to talk in a mirror goes with asking for help. I remember Matt Cate, who he's been on twice. He wants a robe, which is pretty funny. He wants a 2-timer robe. He might need to come on 3 or 4 or 5 times like Saturday Night Live. But he was on January 25th episode, and he talked about he was cabinet secretary for 2 governors of 2 different parties, by the way, which I think is so impressive. CEO of the County Supervisors Association, which is a big deal here in California, and the founder of Mosaic Solutions. And I asked him, hey, man, you've had all these different jobs where there's no way on like week 1 or week 2 you could master the subject matter, but you have big meetings right away. What do? And he goes, I ask for help. I set the tone, I set the ethic, and I ask for help. I think that goes with I refuse to talk in the mirror, and it certainly goes with the value of fresh eyes and ears. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, Riley, by some of the people that approach me because they're very successful, and a lot of times things are going well. And I remember I asked a county sheriff who said, I want to bring you in. And I started asking questions. I think I got like 8 pages of notes about what was going on, and most of it sounded really good. And I said, I'm confused about why you're bringing me in. He said, I want your fresh, informed eyes and ears on our situation. And I thought that was, it happened to be, great business for me, but it's proved out to be, I'm in year 4 there, just prophetic. Not a mess, not even close to a mess, like doing very well but we marinate in this every day. And I've had a bunch of engagements that are where they're doing fine or fine plus, and they're looking for next gears, and they're looking for nooks and crannies they're missing. And usually the smart boss sits for the meetings. They don't stand, they don't lead, they sit, they participate. It's kind of blown me away a little bit, to be honest. I just think it's great. Ask for help, demonstrate good leadership behavior, and refuse to talk in the mirror, going with the value of fresh eyes and ears. These are all things I've learned since I started, by the way. I did not know most of these things coming into this profession.
Let's get into pre-debate testing. What's that point about?
I love that you're like, what are you talking about? So pre-debate testing is something that comes up more and more where my client has a really hard meeting coming up. And so for a lawyer, it might be mocks. Like, hey, you want to do a mock here? Like, you want me to, because I know this topic, like you brought me along and I've been reading since you brought this up. I can get within 20% of the other side. You want me to like get after you and we'll do it in a closed session? So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, hey, got a big meeting coming up, big board meeting, big staff meeting, really difficult disciplinary thing. All right, let's pre-debate test it. Let's do that. Let me see if I can figure out every question that could come to you. Let me interrupt you. Let me push and pull on you, depending on what the situation is. I think we're getting a lot of turn on that. If nothing else, Riley, it allows you, you know the difference when you go into a test and you haven't studied, and then the test you have studied and you're just not worried about it. You're kind of looking forward to it because you're studied up. It's human behavior, so it's not the same as a test. It's, it's iterative and fluid, but we try to get at like every possible way this could come at you in a pre-debate test so you don't go in there cold with hope as a strategy. And normally the way it ends is the person says, man, I'm really glad I brought this up. I feel way better about like this big meeting I have. Sometimes I forget to breathe. Like we'll get in these conversations about like this really big stuff. And I'm like, breathe, Nick, breathe. It's not like, so yeah, that's why I put pre-debate tests on there. It comes up quite a bit and it's becoming an increasing part of my practice.
And it seems almost the opposite of this next one, set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it really hit my radar when Zach Kilpatrick from Cribble, which is a high-tech firm, a data analytics firm in the Bay Area, in the May 24 episode, I asked him, if I was to do a 360 degree on you, big-time technology VP, what would it say? And Zach said some version of, I think I would check out well. I think my team likes me. And the one thing I think they would say is, when we have a big meeting on something, I think he said, particularly if it's like personal or like personnel related, I tend to set it and forget it. Like the meeting will go well, but then I never get back to it. And so I think they would say really good at helping, but then we don't ever get a chance to get back to it. So yeah, I mean, and I would also say I have that same saying or mindset. I think it's a saying really around executive boardrooms where you build a team and you promoted a team and you distributed a portfolio based on what made sense at a time. And then a year in or 18 months in, the fact sets have changed, the skill sets have changed, somebody's not getting along as well with the vendor. What I urge the executive to do or not do is do not set it and forget it. We can keep the same people and change portfolios around. I prefer not to change people, but we do, of course, sometimes, but do not set it and forget it. Do not give them their assignments and not come back to this for 2 years. These need to be fluid, ongoing discussions. So that's why I put set it and forget it. Do not set it and forget it.
And is that in any way related to social contract? The social contract? Is it the social contract that you're talking about?
No, I don't think it's related. I just think it's sequential. It's just another common theme, ism that I'm hearing. Social contract is probably a Nickism the way I use it. The verbiage itself is not. But I ask people to establish, reestablish, refresh a social contract. I mean, here's an example. When I give you bad news, when I'm on vacation, when I dig in on something, I promise to tell you what I think. Especially when it's not easy, I promise I'll come see you. So like this comes up in a session where like I really should have told my boss, I should have brought this up. But every time I brought it up, he just said like, do it. Like, I understand, do it. I understand, do it. And we've all been in that situation. So invariably these situations, not always, but mostly these situations where we don't tell our boss the thing he or she needs to know because like they're just lobbing it right back to us. When they go kaboom, because most of them do, because you didn't tell the person what they really needed to know. I like a re-engineered social contract, which is to say, I want you to know the reason I'm saying no is because I'm trying to get your back and I'm trying to be like a really good lieutenant for you, if you will, or vice president for you, or partner for you. So I need you to see that, but also I will fight through no. If we can't do it, I'm going to look you in the eye and tell you, but I need you to hear me different. And when it's really effective, the refresh social contract is when you have enough equity in these conversations where this particular person, this comes up not all the time, but regularly, Are you in good stead? Yeah, I'm in great stead. Like, do they think you're lazy? No. Do they think you're great? Yeah. Do you bring many things to your boss that's like, this is not going to work? Like, no. Is this going to work? No. Then bring it to your freaking boss. Like, do not keep that to yourself. So in this case and a few others, it'll go kaboom. And so I like, all right, let me get back to Riley. Let's have a different social agreement. Like, I need to know that you'll bring this to me. And what I'm going to do is try to shut my freaking mouth because I need to hear you out. And you're trying to tell me something. This person's contention was, boss, I told you over and over, and you overruled me over and over. And my question was, well, why did you give up at the end? Because it screwed everybody downstream from this executive because it didn't work. So, it's not always one thing, but some of these aren't a written pip, or you're not in trouble, or we're not saying like, do not do this again. It's like two high level people, even if they might be different ranks, to say like, let's handle this differently. Let's have a social contract, a social agreement that we will handle this differently this time. And those tend to stick.
It seems like a lot of these last few ones have been about checking in and the appropriate way to check in and communicate with people at different levels than yourself. Was that not something that was as common, 20 years ago in business? Is that something that like just has developed as a sticking point that's been a problem for businesses for a while?
I think so. I think we've been operating at a medium level for most of like society. We're getting a little bit better as we go, like explaining the why. James Clear talks about explaining the why. It's so important, especially in law enforcement circles I work in, and then increasingly at high levels of corporate in particular. Like, can they just do it? Can you just do it? Like, coming up, these kids didn't ask all these questions. And my ascension is, sir, madam, we also worked at a mediocre pace. These are smart people. If you explain to them why they're doing what they're doing, or why you said no, explain why you said no. That could really be helpful to them. So, yeah, I think there's evolution in places, at least I'm working, is even getting some of the old school guard to understand if you want better fidelity, if you want to be a control freak, then it really explain to them why. Because if you just tell them do it, the fidelity, the chances they do it 100% are very, very low. So I'm really trying to and I think, there's plenty of writing. It's not like it's a Nick Warner thing. Explain the why. Explain a little more. Shut your freaking mouth. You still have the power and you know more, but there's a lot of intellectual property in there, and explain it to them again, especially if they don't get what they want. Explain why. Because what happens is they leave and like, I don't know why. Who knows why? Riley said no. Like, super unhelpful.
Well, let's dive into this one, which I feel like I'm familiar with, at least, is high tide rises all ships.
You start them.
That was not the social contract.
Don't you use me against me. How dare you? My brother says the best how dare you is Ryan Warner from like episode 7. Oh, he winds up on how dare you like nobody you've ever met.
That was the best radio voices podcast we've ever done. The two of you talking to each other, just golden throats. That's besides the point. So high tide raises all ships. Like, isn't that when things are going well for all of us, or for one person, it should be good for everybody?
Yeah. Yep. And we miss that. People miss that all the time. This is a team sport. Isn't like the next one is a team sport, which is the people that have been working with me or for me the longest listening to this right now are rolling their eyes. Like, we know, Nick, team sport. When I have that into the DNA of the organization that I'm working in or running, then we're good. And it goes right with high tide rises all ships. So yeah, those two go together, team sport and high tide. I have nothing more to add than what you said, because that's exactly how I think about it.
And these next two, look sharp, be on time. I feel like we've been talking about it. Just goes hand in hand with a lot of this.
And it does. Work in advance of the deadline. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Now, we've all heard of Common Core, but what's Nick Math?
I think Nick Math is two things. That's a good baseline against Common Core. It's economic, and use this sparingly and in the right places. This, like most things, this is not absolute, but I'm pretty sure my math is better than, especially when I was running a big lobbying and at times a law firm, people would charge, let's say, $50,000 a month for a short engagement on something big and then lose the contract right away. So as I learned from my colleagues and watch these business models, I thought, I bet we could take this for a more digestible fee, make ourselves sticky as smart consultants, and run and actually be on this team for a while. So I've checked my math on that over and over and over and over again. And if you can be digestible and then you can add unique value, I've run contracts out 20 years, 25 years that are still going. And they might be at times a little lower, but the conversation goes, hey man, how'd it go with that group? I can't believe they paid you $50,000 for the 3 months of consulting. How's it going? Like, what do you mean how's it going? Well, you still working with them? No, it was a great 3 months. But I have a very similar situation at $15,000 a month for my consulting team. I'm not making this up. We've had them 15 years. We've had some 25 years. I checked my math. I'm like, it's not even close. It's a little bit of slow and steady wins a race, but at a lucrative high level, like in big stakes business, I'm not always going for my top number. I'd like to be digestible. I feel that way in coaching. I'm increasingly expensive, but I still have to be digestible if I want to be around. So I try to listen, and my fees are mostly what they are, but there's some projects that I really want to do and they're longer term. And so I'm thinking about my rate, the digestibility, can I stick? And I really want to do this. So I'm trying to be digestible and nick math over time. The second way I think about and experience it is at this stage of my career and what I think and what the market's telling me I bring to the table, I don't want to, other than with really young emerging leaders, and I have a handful of those, 2 or 3 or 4, like in their 20s, and I love it. But I want to work through people like you are 1 + 1 = 7 because of your team. I work at some levels where if I'm working with a VP, he or she might have 150 people on their team, not direct reports, but that's nick math for me. I want to work in leverage situations where my 1 + 1 = helping or informing a lot of other people. Those are the 2 ways I use nick math, both for economics and as a change agent.
And does that lead into bet on myself at all? I see that here.
I don't know. I'm sure we could come up with some reason it does, but bet on myself. I heard it this week and I hear it, and it's obviously it's in the mix with the business coach, because am I going to leave and start my own business? I've been running somebody else's. I want to start my own business. I think it's time for me to start I want to go out on my own and be a consultant. And so I just happened to hear it this week in a way that fired me up. But most weeks I hear it, or if occasion comes up where I actually say it, is the person said, I'm going to bet on myself. And in this case, I actually was spitting numbers as the person was saying it, and I was nodding my head like you are right now. So there's a time and a place to bet on yourself. The client said, because I wrote down the quote, I'm declining the offer and I'm betting on myself, ! There's plenty of times too where I'm like, can I run an alternate scenario by you? Like how long this might take to go and the burn rate for your family that you've been mentioning. So it's not always that easy, but that's why I bring it up. That's why it's a kind of thematic, if you will.
Yeah. And I bet you're saying that a lot of times to people who are asking yourselves, you're not supposed to feel this way at work.
I don't think I've said that more than 4 or 5 times in 5 years, Riley, but there's times I'll get behind the scenes and I'm like, I said it to a company president one time. I have a current person on my client list also. And I've just said, you are not supposed to feel this way at work. This has been going on for years. You've tried everything. I just don't. There's a time and a place where you take yourself and your family and your goodwill, and by hook or by crook, you get out, because you're just not supposed to feel that way at work. Now, that said, you probably have in your podcast, and I certainly have in business coaching, where there's an initiative and it's no freaking joke, and we have committed to something that runs through March, and all of our careers and finances hinge on this, and it might suck. Like for me, it was the end of the legislative process. That last month, I just said goodbye to my family. Like, I'll see you if I see you. I'm going in. It's really hard. You'll see me at night. And I meant to be doing it. I wanted to do it. That's what, that was part of our job. But there's a time and a place where I will say to somebody, and I want others to listen to this, you are not supposed to feel this way at work. Neutral. I don't love neutral. I love better than neutral. Like, it'd be great if people could really like their jobs. That's not always a reality, but there's a line of demarcation somewhere where if it's not getting better, it's okay. Look in the mirror and realize it's not supposed to be this way at work. You're not supposed to feel this way.
Here's an interesting one that I think people are talking about. I hear it all the time, especially on podcasts these days. Where does AI fit in for me as a coach, and how am I hearing it used by my clients?
I'm going to start with, I'm not sure yet. I have inclinations, and I've been talking to mentors. I've been like lightly talking to some other business coaches, just like working into conversation with my colleagues. But I've definitely been like, even reached out to a couple principals of mine, because my current answer for this, I think, will evolve over time. My current answer is I mostly want to compete against AI, because I think the human experience currently elevates above what AI can give. That said, I cannot believe the way AI has closed the gap in, like, for example, having trouble with a problem employee. I'm on my chat and I'm just talking it through on my walk, and it's organizing for me all the concerns I have with the potential going forward action plan based on how I think about things. Really impressive. And frankly, I think right now I encourage it, because what comes back is that organized your thoughts. That's great. So I don't know it'll stay in that space, and I think there's value. I mean, I use it to get myself started, but I think right now, like, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about how, I always blow the name of this consulting firm, Kesson, I think, is like one of the biggest consulting firms in the country. The article talked about, we can take all this data and within 5 minutes, it'll print out a slide deck. It'll give you all these things. And I take that really seriously. And I think over time, there's a possibility that I will come around to that and use it in places. But I still think right now I can get more through the human experience, especially through confidential settings, and then figure out how to scrub out the unique identifiers from all the people I talk to and get a better product back to that room. But I'm really paying attention to both incorporating it into my game. If the client really wants to use it, I don't want to get caught flat-footed that I don't know how to use it. And frankly, I'm on the advisory board for a Canadian AI company called Narwin AI. I'm deep involved with this company that uses AI for grants and RFPs. So I'm not shying away from it, but right now I want to compete against it, at least for today.
All right. Well, I think, that leads nicely into high performing leadership teams, because I think, in the future, AI is just going to be a tool for these teams. It's not going to be, I think we all had that initial freak out of AI is now going to be a better CEO than a CEO could ever be. I don't know if that's the case. They can't spell blueberry yet, but it's going to definitely be a tool that everybody should have some knowledge about. Now, high performing leadership teams are going to be the ones that are able to use it to its most effective, nth degree.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the AI part in the executive team right now in terms of the reason that I tease this out of the folders, out of the through lines. But I do have really strong opinions on what a high performing leadership team is, and I knew some of this coming into coaching, and now I've had a lot of repetitions at it. This is again Nick for Nick. Is titles do not matter. Once you step into that executive boardroom where you are, let's say, 6 people and your company has 100 people, to me, if you go family of 4, like on average, it's made exact, but that's 400 people that the 4 or the 6 of us have direct impact on their lives and their families. That's soulful and sacrosanct and should be taken really seriously. So my version of a high performing leadership team, hopefully succinctly put, is once you walk in that conference room, titles don't matter. Everybody speaks freely. Once a decision is made, it's our decision as a group and should be implemented with complete fidelity. And then the last one that I would put on there, and it sounds easy, but it's hard to do, especially when there's emotions and wins and losses. But the last one I put in there is Nick's rule of 3. And I didn't make this up. I saw it. And so I made a rule for it, which is we had our leadership team meeting. It was 5 or 7 or 12 or 18 people. And this is what I pick up in one-on-one sessions. And then 3 or 4 of us are in the hallway MFing what happened, confused about what happened, gossiping about what happened. That has got to come back to the conference room. That is interjecting poison directly into your agency as a leader. You don't mean to do it, but that's what it is. You have to get this back to the leadership table. And quite frankly, Good to Great by Jim Collins, one of the best business books ever read. Chronicle is better than I'll say it. It's crazy. The leaders of my company go into our conference room and I swear they're yelling at each other like shook up snow globe. They come out and we have 6 months of amazing growth or whatever it is we're trying to do. And then they went in there again last week and they're in there 6 hours mixing it up, yelling, we can hear them through the conference walls. And then we had another blissful run of a year. It's okay to talk about these things. If you don't, it's way worse. I promise you, it's way worse. So that Nick's rule of 3 can be very impressive because you've caught on it's not baked, it's not fixed. That's a low to medium performing leadership team. And let's talk about flying embers. So flying embers is, the reason that's on there is picture the end of a staff meeting. Let's say I'm working with a company right now that has sizable fleet. And so let's say the fleet manager who's in the executive team meeting doesn't get his or her fleet, which is what happened. And we didn't talk about it. We just said we don't have the money for it right now. We're just going to have to go with what we go for, and we'll put in more money for a mechanic. It was not talked about when that meeting broke. So that person goes back to fleet and says, I don't know. Who knows what they do? I made the case. I have no idea. To me, that's a version of near cancer into your organization. The leader or the leaders need to understand we're sending Riley out with a loss. So I want to test your messaging. Hey, Riley, I'm sending you out a real problem. I don't want you to be a flying ember and catch a roof on fire. So how are you going to talk about this, man? Or I have another meeting too. Should we figure out our messaging on this? Because I recognize I'm sending you out in a terrible position. Well, you didn't get the PYs, the personnel years. You didn't get the computer. You didn't get the fleet. We got to talk about that. So I really encourage groups to not let these people leave as flying embers and to make sure we have common messaging, especially when you recognize somebody's walking out tail between their legs. The other place I see flying embers is in a really good way is you're working with a team and you've impressed somebody on that executive team and then that person leaves and picks you back up. So you're interviewing at times, you don't even know you're interviewing. That person might be the 5th person on this group. They may never have talked, but it's pretty cool when somebody gets to another place and says, hey, Riley, I'm picking you back up. You were awesome to work with. So these things change over time, and you pick up business by impressing people you didn't even know you were impressing because they're flying embers into other companies. The bad ones catch roofs on fire. The good flying embers end up being new clients.
I've had 3 flying embers this week, and it's just people have moved on to different companies, especially in the NGO space. I think there's a lot of mix up this year at the very beginning of the year with a lot of funding change around and things like that. But now people are landing on their feet and they're saying, you know what, we want to get a podcast out there. This was the team that I worked with at our last place. It was fantastic. And like just being able to hear that has done 90% of the sales for me. Now it's just, that proof of work is so great. And it's so amazing to hear when it's, especially as a leader, and it's like a project that you weren't even really involved with. Someone else was doing the project management for you. And that comes back in his business years later. It's amazing.
You're getting interviewed whether you know you are or not. I just had a situation where a company that I work with told me something I did not want to hear. And it's probably it's never gotten pitched. It's never gotten angry. It's just like, I don't want to do what they want me to do. And they want me to do what they want me to do. We made it all the way through. I don't know. Like, it's been weeks. We probably had 7 conversations. And I did not win. I lost. I capitulated. And but they were willing to be transparent and explain to me what was going on, which I really appreciated, and go back and reconsider. And I'm a tough get as a lobbyist. I'm a pretty good arguer. I don't mean angry, but I had a lot of good cases to make, and I had good cases to make. But at the end, I didn't win. And what I was told was, hey, just so you know, man, you impressed a lot of people around here. Like, the way you handle that situation, they're talking about bringing you in for some next level stuff. And I'm like, oh no, really? Like, I did not see that coming. I was being interviewed without even know I was being interviewed. And it was just, hopefully the way I handle my business anyways. But another example of they were watching. I didn't even know they were watching. They wanted to see how I was going to handle conflict resolution, and now they might want to bring me in. Who knew?
All right. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
I just reread this book, and it is coming up over and over, both in my brain for myself and also in my practice. So that's why I put it on there, because it's thematic, if you will. I read it either in grad school or undergrad, and then it kept coming up, and it kept coming to my practice. So I reread it, and it's brilliant as a business book, as a sociology book. And a couple of things that are really on my radar that, again, come up in coaching or thematic are adults do not respond to criticism, especially successful adults. So if you're going to enter the conversation, and this could be your staff too, but people that do pretty well, and even if they don't, they're generally not going to respond to criticism. So thinking about frame of reference would be the other issue I'd bring up there. What's their frame of reference? How are they thinking about this? A crass way would be to say, like, why do they care? Why do they give a shit? So especially when you're getting to know, or you're going to go talk to somebody about something that's difficult or dicey, or you're not sure, really being thoughtful about, where's Riley coming from? What are his pressures? Where does he have to turn to next? So that's where that book is so helpful, is if you lead with criticism, especially if you're the boss, and a lot of my clients are, and I am, you can get the change, but it's going to snap back on you. So let's be thoughtful. Let's back this up. Let's think about their frame of reference. Where are they coming from? One of the things that How to Win Friends and Influence People references is, most of these people you're trying to influence to change behavior do something good, or they wouldn't be there. So it's not compliment sandwich rally. I think it's just like fluffy BS that disintegrates like the minute you start talking. But in substance, they probably do some things well. That's why they are on this team. If we can teach in and read in and get them to understand, I come in peace, and go from a position of where things are working well and try to build off that, not just emotionally, but even possibly mechanically. And that goes with saying you did good is not quite enough. Like, if you explain to the person why what you did was so helpful to me, like me saying to you, you do a great job, is different than you're on time. I never have to touch the podcast again. The edits are tight every single time. Your team is really, really good. That's different than like, you guys do a great job for me. So that's where, when we're trying to influence behavior at work, and I guess at times other places, you're not going to get it straight ahead on criticism. You're going to have to get it through frame of reference and through like some other foothold beside you suck.
All right. So next one is, I think, one that I hear a lot, but I never really know the definition of, and is radical empathy. What is that as a communication tool? And then next here you've got, transparency without empathy is just cruelty. What does that mean to you? What does that mean for us?
Radical transparency. It's funny. I wrote it down wrong because it didn't sound right. It didn't sound strong enough. So I just actually looked at my folder, and it's not radical empathy. It's just the opposite. It's radical transparency as a communication tool. So yeah, when you brought it up, I realized that sounds kind of round edge. It's harder than that. Radical transparency. I mean, I heard it yesterday for the first time, to be honest with you, and it really got my attention. I think what it is just like straight to market. This is how it was used with me, is straight to market. We're pretty close to, I said PIP before, which is a performance improvement plan, or we're pretty close to like, I'm going to have to let you go, but I really don't want to. And I don't want to go to HR. And we're in our last conversation before this gets more serious. And I think it was used and it worked. And so it got my attention because the person that was telling it to me said it really pushed this person into a next level. And now they're about a year in and they're starting to slip at this level. And what I suggested is, you said radical transparency worked really well the first time. Do you think you could use it a second time? Now, I think if you bring radical transparency to the wrong person, it turns into exactly what you said, which is transparency without empathy is just cruelty. The point is to give it to somebody in a digestible way. But in this case, the executive reported to me, it worked damn well. I'm going to go do it again. I don't think she like jumped up and down and yelled and screamed at her subordinate, but I think she just brought the like right to market, just directly to the point. Obviously, you have to be careful with that, but I'm particularly struck by this term, especially as the power differential grows, where you can pretty much implement your vision on fiat. Transparency without empathy is just cruelty. And the point is to be able to come back together, to teach them, to coach them, and work tomorrow together. So the first time I heard it, it stuck with me, and it seemed to be sticking with others.
Here's one that's nice and simple for you, Nick. Build it on concrete. What does that mean?
Yeah, for me, build it on concrete is build it solid. Build it solid. Like don't, an example is credit card debt. Another example is overpromising on deadlines. Not using, I don't mean QuickBooks proprietary in a proprietary manner, but like shoddy books. And I don't mean like a legal shoddy, just not tight books. I'll go back to your brand, your personal brand, being sharp, being on time. I want things built on solid, and we can go from there. Also, to me, financial advisor, smart CPA, I mentioned branding, having a lawyer around you. I've never sued anybody or been sued, but I've had a lawyer that helps me with contracts and like helping put things together. Hiring really well, like avoiding big time Johnny, big time Jane, avoiding brilliant jerks, like building your company, building your career on concrete. And there's a time and a place where you have to spend some money in advance, like spending money to make money, or you have to get something started before you're maybe 1,000%, as they say, building the plane while you're still flying it. But I'm big on build it on concrete. Let's build this thing to fly over time. I'm not fly by night. So, yeah. I'm more about slow and steady wins the race. So, yeah, build it on concrete goes with that.
And you just touched on this, but the importance of a good team of professional advisors. You've got here financial advisor, CPA, lawyer, insurance, HR, coach. How would you, I think those are things, especially for folks who are just starting off, they may, and by that, I also mean myself, I'm definitely doing this right now. I'm undervaluing those services because for me, it just seems like an expense that's not going to come back to me immediately. So what's the importance of a good team of professional advisors?
That's a great question, especially when you don't have the money yet, or you're still building. One of my clients went and saw a financial advisor, one that I wanted to go see, and the financial advisor said, let's not do any investments right now. Go work. You're doing really well. Just continue to put the money back into your business, pay your debts off, and then come back and see me. So that didn't cost anything at all. And normally financial advisors get paid either fees from your transaction, or as you go, they get paid a percentage of your growth. So you don't pay them per se. CPA, it depends on how you think about putting money out, because where I missed on a CPA, where I didn't have it good enough, I was using a tax planner and my business was leveling up way past that, is I got a $60,000 tax bill I didn't see coming, to be honest. So it's like, not to overuse pay now or pay later, but that was infancy stages of my previous business. So, lawyer, same thing. I mean, I don't think you need to necessarily have a lawyer you're paying, and I would go 2 years without talking to my lawyer. That said, I like having a lawyer on contract who knows my business, where we've signed a general counsel agreement. He's looking at my onboarding documents, contracts I sign. Every once in a while, I'll have an HR thing where I'm like, do you think I should open a file here? And, he's giving me advice like, yeah, email yourself right after that conversation. We got to open a file. It may end well, but I'm not really using a lawyer day to day, but I like having somebody when I call, it isn't like, oh, hi, Riley, my name's Mike. Tell me about your business. I want to bring them along over time. So when I need them, but I might only pay an hour up front. It's possible I even just get a consult up front with the right person so they know my business and I can call them when they need me, or when I need them, I should say. The biggest person for me, and if you listen to 2 episodes ago, which you may have to find somewhere besides Apple, because Morgan Stanley's not loving the fact that it's up, but you'll you'll find, and if you want to hear that, call me or email me and I will send you the file because it's a really impactful episode. But financial advisor to me is the biggest example of building on concrete. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really good at my business, but I don't know what to do after that. So I've had a financial advisor since I was 27 and I had like $10 in the bank and they made nothing on me. I met every 6 months, like barely. I drove to them every time. Now they come to me. Yeah, build it on concrete. So that good team of advisors. And it takes time to pierce that level. I use that word on purpose. It takes time to pierce into this level where you have access to these people. And then the skill set is put your right advisors in the right place at the right time, CC the right people at the right time, and recognize what you don't know. You're great at something. Now I want to put a team of advisors around me that are excellent. And I have to fill that space because I have to be able to manage them, be a good partner with them. I can't know nothing, but I'm really good at this and I want a solid team. That's my personal board of directors, chaired by my financial advisor.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that goes really, really hand in hand with this next point, which is implement through all stars. Can you want to go through what that means?
Yeah. Good to Great by Jim Collins says, put your best people on your best opportunity and implement through your all stars. To me, Riley, when I'm looking at somebody's team, I often ask them to put them into 3 categories: all-star, middling, and remedial. And so the number one thing I want to do is I want to put my best people on my best opportunities. And the reason Good Great says that is that we do the opposite of that way too often. We put our best people on our biggest problems. And I'm not saying that that's not a component piece because I think it's Pollyanna and not realistic to say you're not going to put your best people on some of your best problems. But the best organizations I see and what I urge and what I think top academia and reading would say is put your best people on your best opportunity, which is also implementing through your all-stars. Another way to say it in career transition work is activate your champions. Let's work through your champions. Let's work through your best people. Now, then we have to pare that down to tell me about your middling, because the challenge is for you and for me is we got to get our middling employees, those who are able to be all-stars, and it may not be 5 of 5. It might be 1 of 5. And then you as the best person, me as the best person, we put our energy into that middling category to move them over. And then remedial is a whole nother issue. There are places, I'll say big government in spots, even big corporate in spots where they're going to hide. And also you don't have somebody for them. And so you just have to go with, remedial minus is not going to work, but like remedial plus can work for periods of time, especially when it's like, it's going to be like forever for me to even get back to this mediocre position. But mostly the challenge is if you want to be a really great organization, which I do, and I won't have it any other way, nor will you can't be in remedial. So I'm going to hold you to maximum accountability with maximum support. And then in some reasonable period of time, if I don't see a demonstrable difference in pattern and practice, I've got to move. And I think I've done a poor job of that historically and a much better job in the modern as an advisor and also at times as an employer. It's that pattern and practice demonstrated over time where it's time to move once you put your all into that. But I want to implement through my all-stars. I want to move my middling to the extent I can over to all-star. And we got to address the remedial because you can't stay there and be the kind of company you want to be.
All right, Nick. So thousands of coaching sessions later, what wins? What's the secret?
This is my version of the secret. I think 3 C's to start: curious, competitive, and creative. Those are the 3 traits I'm looking for. But I'm telling you, Riley, and our loyal listeners, which I so appreciate, hustle still wins. You still have to outwork the field. That old school stuff still plays. There's no substitute for it. I don't care about AI. I don't care about technology. I mean, I do care, but all the solid, all the built on concrete, all the hustle still wins. My current view after 4+ years in the trenches, coaching motivated leaders and emerging leaders, is that humility is the dividing line between good and great. It's not enough to be smart. Those of you who listening or watching know it takes a lot to get to the top, but when you pierce this level and you're able to adjust to others and add communication tools and skills to your repertoire, that's when you can impact more people in different ways. Being an employer or manager should be a soulful experience. At least I think it should be. You have major impact on the lives of everyone around you and their families. If I'm working with a company or an agency that has 100 employees, I mentioned earlier, in my mind, that's 400 people, like a family of 4 that I have direct impact on. I manage to the dinner table and to their kids' college accounts. I want people to thrive under me, and I want to serve my clients and my constituency in a way that serves my internal team and their families and my extended customer or constituency. But I mean business. And on some things, I'm not flexible. I demand excellence, and I'm willing and able to talk about hard things and keep us connected. Make no mistake, just like that title of the book, Marshall Goldsmith's title of the book, I find impactful. What got you here won't get you there. Getting to the top is easier than staying there. It's really hard to be effective once you're at the top. When I came out of politics and big business, I promised myself no more know-it-alls and no more jerks. And you know what, man? Those people never call a business coach. As a business coach, I work with humble leaders and emerging leaders who want what's best for their people, and they adhere to what James Clear espouses in his famous book, Leaders Eat Last. But all of it requires training and your human evolution as you maneuver through this rarefied air. Fair answers? That's what I think I know after. Like, I'm honestly bumping up on almost 4,000 sessions. That's what I think I know.
4,000 sessions. Wow.
Riley Byrne, you did a marvelous job as my wingman today, and I'm grateful for your almost 5-year partnership and the compounding success we're experiencing together with the show. Thank you to your colleagues and my team at Podigy Podcast and to our highly valued listeners. We'll see you next month on Together at the Top. Thank you so much for your time. Together at the Top thrives off listeners like you. To stay connected, follow our socials in the show notes and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We will be releasing our show on the last Tuesday of every month. See you next time. At Nick Warner Consulting, we exist to coach and consult motivated professionals. I meet with you on Zoom in focused 90-minute sessions, working toward your goals and developing next-level business skill sets. My job is to add value to your organization and your career. To learn more, visit www.nickwarnerconsulting.com or call me directly at 916-765-3576.